One of the biggest concerns that new creators have is the budget that gear costs. And it's no joke, camera gear costs quite a bit of money. And what is cheap in the regular world is not cheap in the camera space. So if you only had $1,000, what would be the best budget? Well, this is a question that a creator recently commented on the channel asking if I could do a video on this for $1,000, $2,000, and $3,000. So obviously you're on the $1,000 video. We're gonna cover if I literally have nothing, no gear, no accessories, no nothing, no nada. What would I buy to get started? And I literally only have $1,000. I'm gonna do my best to stay under the budget or closing right near to it and get us everything that we need. So let's jump in because we have a few categories to cover, but let's get this thing rocking and rolling. The most important categories that you're looking at is people go out of order. They get the camera first, blow all of the whole budget on that, then find out that they need a bunch of other stuff to make the videos look the way you want them to look. And you just don't have any more money left, so you gotta wait. Ask me how I know. I was in the same shoes that you were, but I'm hoping to give you a better pair. How about that? So we need audio, we need lighting, and from there, knowing what cameras that we'll get, we'll take a look at the accessories. So let's dive into the audio section. For audio, there's 3 different types of microphones or 3 different audio sources that you want to look at and consider. And I think ultimately you do want to look at getting one of each. You have the microphone like this podcast style microphone that's great for Zoom calls, making videos at your desk, just to block out background noise. I like to use good dynamic style microphones that project background noise, so it only pick up stuff about the size of your head. But these cost quite a bit of money at times. Even if you look at probably my favorite recommendation, which is the Shure MV7, that is an XLR USB, has all the bells and whistles, looks great, sounds great, even comes with a little bit of software, so you don't have to initially invest in something like the Rodecaster Pro. But that would take us a little bit over the budget and it won't be as flexible, because what if I don't want to make videos at my desk? Now I have to figure something else out. So that's when our shotgun microphone style of microphones come in handy. When we're looking at vlogging, maybe being about an arm's length or a little bit further away. This is definitely not something where you want to have that mic source way across the room with the camera. You want to keep that mic source close to you. And even if you're working in an untreated room, which I would assume that you are, even if it's carpet with a couch, the living room setup, for example, it's still going to sound really echoey. So we don't want to take that route. It would be a good option because we could use it at the desk. We could use it for vlogging. We could even use it for podcasting and stuff if we wanted to. But that's not the route we're going to take. But if you do want to take that option, I would recommend my favorite, which is the Movo VXR10. Sounds really, really good. I've compared it against a lot of other microphones, and it sounds really, really good, especially if you're working in noisy environments, which I assume most of us are, especially working from home more often. That leads me into my third option that we're going to be moving with in this particular video, which is going to be the Rode Wireless Go 2 options, not the Mark 1s. And the option we're looking at is the one that comes with the Rode Go lapel. I'm looking at a couple scenarios of my audio source, in addition to all the other things that I've talked about, which the main chief concern is background noise. Even in what is considered a relatively quiet environment, there's what's considered a noise floor. So on that noise floor, you have things like your furnace, your air conditioner, your refrigerator. Even if it's nearby, you can still sometimes hear it. Now we're looking into summer, maybe a little bit later into winter months. We're looking at the furnace, which mine literally just kicked on. But when you have a good microphone source, even the lapel mics, it kind of reduces that noise floor. So it's not as noticeable. Not the best podcast style microphone, but you could use it for a Zoom call if you wanted to, because we're looking at using some of the software benefits of this and the internal recording to kind of save us a bit. The Rode Wireless Go 2s are awesome because you can connect this with the USB connection to your computer, and they've included like this digital version of a Rodecaster Pro 2, as well as this other Rode app that goes with the device to just honestly use it in a myriad of different ways. You can still get by on your Zoom calls and stuff with an iPhone headphone thing or Bluetooth microphone options like AirPods or whatever. But if you do want an audio source, you can still use that. Plus, when you go into recording, whether you're recording a talk or something like that, you don't need to go and make another investment. Again, we're staying under $1,000. So I'm trying to take all of the mix of scenarios that we might be in. But the only one thing is vlogging. it even still works for that, believe it or not. When you pair this with your camera that we're going to be using later, you can now still use the shotgun microphones or the built-in mics that are on the Rode Wireless Go 2s. Pop that into the hot shoe or cold shoe on the camera, and you're good to go. So it works in all the scenarios. Pick one, whichever one you think would be best suited for the content you're going to create 80 to 90% of the time. Keep that in mind. Let's move over into lighting. So right now with the microphone option that I've chosen, with the lapel mic, I'm about $240 deep so far. With lighting, you can use natural light, but what if you work during the day and you don't have great lighting when you get home? Now you're gonna make any camera that you buy, no matter how great it is in low light, struggle a bit more to see you, and it just doesn't look as well. I don't care how great a camera is, all cameras need lights, and all scenes are lit in any kind of videography or cinematography. Unless you're gonna record during the daytime at some point and maybe be a weekend warrior creator and you have the sunlight, you need lights. What I would love to get is the same kit that I use right now, which is the VL200 by Viltrox, but right now they're out and they're not available or on sale, but you usually find these about 120 to 140 bucks. But like I said, they're out. And I use the diffusion softbox. Those are also out. So I guess I've been doing a good job of selling those. But what's the alternative? Well, I want to condense this down from a 2 light setup to a 1 light setup. Just because the ideal set that I would use is not available doesn't mean we can't get anything. I still want to stick with a LED light panel that's small and portable, because you might be in a situation where you are recording in a living room or a spare corner of the bedroom, or you could be in your regular recording office and you don't want to or can't leave your stuff set up. You don't maybe want to leave your YouTube recording content set up for your work stuff. So I get it. You may be taking this stuff down. So let's keep it light and nimble. I'm going to go with the Viltrox. It's the 116T or L116T. I like this one. It's the same one you see back there for the pink light, actually. It just has a little bit of a colored gel over it to give it the colored look. So that's the secret sauce for that particular light. And it works phenomenally well. That is the light that we're going to use. You probably have an AC power adapter. Most of us have like those DC connectors at home. See if you got some laying around, or with some old tech that you have or bought at some point. Most of us usually do. But the kit we're going to go with has a battery, so we're going to eat a little bit more than just a regular LED light panel by itself. So you have both options. I'm not sure if they include a charger with it, but that may be another additional cost if you go with the one that has the battery, which works to your benefit. You just have to be careful on time. But the NPF batteries that you can get, those bigger Sony batteries, really big batteries, not the camera ones, you can use that and not have to worry about any cables. So that's nice. But don't just stop there. I love Elgato. Please don't take this the wrong way, but y'all need diffusion. You need diffusion on those lights, and a frosted panel is not diffusion. And even if they're really low, for those of us that wear glasses, we're still dealing with glares and a ton of other stuff. Or you're just working in a small space, so those lights are closer. So it tends to be a bit harsher. I'm not against LED lights, and I love the Elgato key lights for what they are, but we need diffusion. So I'm gonna pick out a cheap $20 knockoff version of the Diffuse kits. Neewer used to be the cheaper choice, but since the diffuse options are currently unavailable or at a little bit higher, Neewer has actually increased the price on it. So we don't need anything special. This will do the job. So that's going to run us about 20 bucks. And we're going to go with a cheap $20 light stand, because unless you're getting a really good set of light stands or C-stand or something similar, the light stands are all equivalent. They're all cheap. They're all kind of flimsy for the most part, but relatively sturdy for what they are. So that'll run us for about 20 bucks. So far, with everything included, we have our lighting set up, we have the accessories that we need for the lights, and we have our audio set up. And that currently puts us at current budget spent of $322.35. So we got a little bit of wiggle room for the camera and some accessories left over, with about 670 bucks to go. So let's move over into our next category. All right, so cameras. This is probably my favorite part, because this is when the creativity starts to come, and this is the part we kind of want to get to anyway. With cameras, this is where it also gets tricky though. We have a budget of under $600 because we still have other stuff to get, which automatically puts us into, unless we find it at a great brand new price, It puts us into a used price because trying to always get everything brand new doesn't always work out. So sometimes we need to make some adjustments for some used gear, and that's okay. But that's where we are for this particular setup. Now, if you want to see the video that I did on used gear and how to make sure when you're buying a used camera, whether it's something like what we're going to pick here, which is a point and shoot camera, has a zoom lens, or it's an interchangeable lens, so you're buying lenses for it, make sure you're getting the right things. Check out the video up in the information card. But that'll put me over into where we're at right now, which is picking the Sony ZV-1. I have looked at a lot of options for this particular setup, and it kind of just keeps coming back to the ZV-1. I want excellent eye autofocus. I want the fully articulating screen, because when you're doing all kinds of content or you're sitting off to the side and you want the screen in a viewable spot, like, this is everything. And the fact that it doesn't have a touch screen like a Canon G7X Mark III doesn't bother me as much as like the overheating in that camera, or as much as it's just out of focus. We need reliability. It makes no sense to spend this much money just to buy problems. Realistically speaking, could I get a Canon M50 Mark II or a Canon M50 Mark I? Hell, I could even drop it all the way down to original Canon M6, maybe find a fantastic price on a Canon M6 Mark II. It's very possible, but with that comes extra accessories and other prices. And again, I don't want to buy a problem. I know in this camera specifically, I'm going to be able to get 4K USB live streaming, all the features of all these other cameras combined into the ZV-1. And it just makes sense to get this. Eye autofocus in video, product showcase mode, excellent range from f1.7 to f2.8. There's a lot of bang for the buck. And you can find these at really great prices used. And if you vlog with it, super easy to use. Probably one of my favorite vlogging options. Even if you're not vlogging, you're just doing content where you record on the camera, I still want something that works for me. So this can use Sony Catalyst Browse, and it has digital stabilization built in. And that is quite a lot to start off with. The camera I started with, the Canon T5i, it had none of those things. Literally none of those things. And it cost as much as this one is going to, which gets us down to pricing. So there's a couple options when I'm looking at what we could buy and where we could buy from. I'm always looking at a couple sources, which is B&H Photo Video. I'm looking at other camera sources like KEH and Adorama. Those are going to be my main shelf of stores that I want to check. Then I'm going to go down into local, but still great reliable stores like Best Buy or other electronics near you. One cool shop is Micro Center. We have that here in St. Louis, so you can see if you have one or something similar. And then of course your mom and pop shops like Sammy's Cameras and stuff like that. So those are our like level 1, level 2 shops to buy from, because if we get it, we know it comes with a 30-day return period, and we know that we can expect everything to work and, you know, accurate representations in pictures and in the pricing. But that is not always the cheapest variation of gear that we can get. So it takes us down to our third tier of options, which is buying from people like us, other creators, other people that maybe they bought it, had it for a while, they're ready to trade it for something else, or they just don't use it as much as they thought and maybe they quit. And that's a real reality for a lot of creators. So that's the route I would take in this one, especially considering my budget. That being said, with the prices that I was able to pull at Mercari, which I was able to find one that's a sweet white looking camera body for $568, and it's about $8 for the delivery, puts me at $571, which is not bad. The only question that I would have with this particular listing is it only has the one angle for the lens extended, and I just want to make sure it's not bent, there's no dents, dings, or anything like that. Now, if I'm going to look for people that are selling stuff, I also want to look for motivated sellers. And the way I identify motivated seller, people that changed the price recently and people that, as in it going down, so they've lowered the price and they are throwing in accessories. That's the sellers that I want to talk to. The people that are just honestly listing this for a quick buy and a quick turnaround. Those that can sit on the camera for 5 and 6 months because they want it specifically at that price, they're doing none of those things. So we don't know if this particular seller is a motivated seller, so we would want to see. He has one of the cheaper prices at the moment that I can see, but I would want to see, can he be maneuvered down to a cheaper price? Pro tip here, if you're going into this tier of purchases from like places like Mercari, you can look at Craigslist, check around, see what local listings and prices, even like Facebook Marketplace, you can use. But what I want to see first is not what Best Buy and not what B&H Photo is selling their stuff new for, or their used prices alone if they have the camera in stock. I want to see if I was to sell a used camera in the condition this person is saying to that camera store, what price would I get? When I did this, considering what I think the camera condition is for some of the listings we see on Mercari, then I see that B&H is considering around about $315 with every accessory that comes in the box. $315, that's nothing. So that's about half, less than half of what the camera actually costs at different times. And then for the best price, if we're looking on sites like mpb.com or KEH, then at best you're looking at maybe about $400 to $50 if you were to sell it to them. And so that's not a bad price, and it's way better than currently the B&H listing. Now taking this, I have a little bit of ammunition and justification for why I want the price that I want, which I would pitch a person selling this camera right now for about $520 to about $530. I wouldn't start there. I would start a little bit lower and say like, how about 500? And they're gonna be like, hell no. But they might take it because we've seen other people on Mercari that sold the camera recently for $500. So they may put it at $570 just to have some wiggle room. So it works on both sides. You may find a good settling point around, like I said, about $520 to $530 if you're selling it. If it's just a hard person that's like, no, I'm firm at my price, then cool, respect the offer and take it or leave it, because there's a lot of listings for this camera, and depending on how long they've been wanting to sell it and then actually following through with listing it may dictate if they want to move on it or not. But don't stress out because one person, and it's the white camera body that you want, they're not willing to move on it, so take it or leave it once you kind of negotiate it down. But I would say you could successfully negotiate this down to about $530. Or you can look at local Best Buy options. I found it for as cheap as $580. That's actually in stock. And then you can sometimes find it for around like $545. And that's what I found my ZV-1 for. And the funny fact was the box was damaged, but the camera was in pristine condition. Not even like fingerprints and stuff on the screen, no lint around the cracks or creases. It literally was somebody that bought it, had it for longer than 30 days, and then returned it. So this is where having other creator friends and just other friends and family in general, like check their local Best Buy and their local stores or even local Mercari listings for other sellers in those areas where you have reliable people that you can trust that would make the purchase for you and then just can send it to you. So that's an option to consider as well. B&H Photo Video, I saw this for around about $613, and that's too close to like, what is like $70-$80 difference between what a brand new one would cost and the one used. I want to save some money. So it's like at that close, as it's starting to near that $620, it's like just get it new at that point. But that would blow our budget. So I would say we're going to go with this seller for the white camera body for negotiated price of $530, which puts our current running total of how much we spent to $852.35. And we have a lot of money still left, $147.65, which would take us into the next category, which is accessories. When it comes to accessories for your camera gear, this is also another one of those sections that a lot of new beginners are forgetting about because you don't have anything, so you don't really know anything. You're only knowing off of the videos that you liked and vibe with those creators like myself, and then you're buying based on those recommendations. But if that video maybe didn't cover it, you didn't get it. So I understand. What I would say for accessories is look at what's going to make your system work best for you. In this particular scenario, we're trying to cover a lot of territory with a low budget. So the first thing I'm going to get is a tripod. I'm going to go with my trusty Amazon Basics tripod, the 60-inch for $27 new. This is kind of one of those things where it just doesn't make sense to buy it used because as plastic as some of those parts are, if it's cracked, then it didn't make it worth anything. It's just better to get it new for as close in price as it is. I'm going to get a 128 gigabyte SanDisk Extreme SD card, but you might be able to save some money on this particular section, which brings us to some of the current offers that we're able to offer with Ecamm Live, which same video I'm recording this with right now. You can, instead of recording in the camera, if you're going to be doing videos like this, then you can use Ecamm Live and record your videos that way. We're actually giving away 2 months free with a free trial in Ecamm. So you get 2 months instead of, like 14 or 30 days. So if you use the promo code Diana, the number 2 MOS, like 2 months, then you can get 2 months of a free trial. You can use Ecamm. It's what I've been using for about 80 to 90% of my content. Even when I do want to record other videos, I don't have to record to my camera. I can record to the SSD. So I don't have to worry about having a ton or a surplus of SD cards, even though I actually do. Consider that if you don't want to get an SD card, but if you do, I would recommend the SanDisk Extreme card, 128 gigabytes. So why not a 64 or 32 gigabyte card? When you start moving into 1080p, even a lot of 1080p content and 4K content at higher bit rates and stuff, you're not going to want to go with like a 64 gigabyte and just trying to penny pinch at that point. It doesn't make sense to in this category. So the 128 gigabytes gives you enough to batch record solid amounts of content, put your B-roll on there as well. Take that into editing. You don't have to use a whole bunch of SD card slots and stuff. And this is probably where we run into our next problem, which we're getting in this other accessory, which is the SanDisk SD card reader. It's going to run us for about $27. So why not just get one of these cheap ones that you'll see on here from, can't remember, like one of those cheapo camera stores. You see them all the time. Why not one of those plastic Fantastics? It's because they're not fantastic. They actually suck. And when you're working with larger 4K files, high quality files, the number you see on the front of the SD card is actually the read speed, READ, not the write speed. The read speed is the data transmission rate, or how fast it is to go from that card into the computer. SanDisk advertises that number on the front, but the fine print will tell you that you need a card reader, their card reader specifically, to get the fastest speeds that that card can do. Now, when it comes to the writing speed or the write speed, you'll find that usually in the jargon or on the back of a package in the store or something like that. And that's the write speed. And that numbers are usually a little bit lower, but the SanDisk Extreme cards, it is one of the most budget friendly, really high quality cards that you can get. Just don't cheap out on the SD cards because you'll run into issues with cameras. Sometimes those cards are faulty. And the last thing you want to do, record your content, record it right, and then you got the wrong SD card. So now you lose it or the card becomes corrupt. It happens more often than you think. So just don't cheap out on SD cards. The rest of the accessories that we're going to get is stuff to help our efficiency with the content and consistency in the look. And for sure, we're getting a $9 gray card. I have had mine for a long time, and you would think for as cheap and as flimsy as these cards are, they work. They work really well. The material hasn't ripped. I've had 0 complaints with this thing, and I've literally had it since 2017. You hold it up to the camera, it takes a picture. That picture is able to read the lighting information. Like I'm set at, like, I think 4700 or 4400 for the white balance. So it says, okay, great. I'm reading the temperature of the room for those lights. And here's what normal skin tones, here's what normal colors look like on the camera. This is why you'll see where you're like either super orange or it's super blue, especially like hotels are great for this because the white balance usually is not set most of the time. And those images where you see it's correct, the white balance is set. So could you run an auto? Yes. Is it worth it? No, because we got budget for it. Don't skip the $9 item that's going to help you get the most consistent look. So stuff is not shifting, looking back and forth, and your skin tone's looking weird. It's not a smart move. The last 2 items that we're going to add on this list is an AC power adapter, and then we're going to be using the UU Rig bottom plate. What this bottom plate does is allow us just to open up the SD card door so it's flush and it doesn't run into any issues. We can put our stuff on a tripod. So if I'm using my vlogging stick, I can put this here, but I don't have to worry about the terrible mounting decision for the placement for where this is at. If you like this thing here, I'm thinking kajigger. That's not the word, but it's a quick release plate that allows you to go from tripod to vlogging stick, ton of other stuff. That is the Uline Z Quick Claw. It's not in the list because we are not going to spend the budget on it, but an option if you do like what I just did there. But because we didn't get an extra battery, the Rice Up AC adapter is going to come in clutch for us. And then when we're looking at the bottom plate, that'll help us with the battery door issue. So if you're doing stuff like this, longer recording sessions, longer videos, don't play the battery game because we only got one battery. It would be $50 for us to at least get the Sony adapter that comes with the battery. That's a great accessory to get if you have a ZV-1 or a similar RX100 style camera. That's an excellent buy, but we're not going to include it in this kit. Our grand total here with everything that we've gotten is $977.35. And if I do say so myself, that is a fantastic starting point and far better than the crap that I bought, making mistakes buying gear and just honestly trying to be too cheap. The stuff that's right and will look good, it doesn't have to cost a ton of money, but you do want to invest in the things that are right. Now, if you're going to proceed with the decision to use the Sony ZV-E10, there is a setup guide where I literally walk you through all the settings that you need to change on the camera. That video is popping up on the screen. Or if you want to start going into, maybe you can got deeper pockets, you want to go into the $2,000 budget, that video is popping up on the screen. Now, usually I cut it at 2, but if you already have a camera and maybe it's all this other stuff that you've been trying to figure out and the settings have been eating you alive, I also did another video walking you through some of the best options that you can consider. So I'll put all of those videos down in the description, but make sure you check out those videos on the screen. I think they will help you out.